You're watching the 643 DP podcast with Derek and Patrick.
For the 643.
The stream is about to begin.
For the 643. For the 643.
Just what the doctor ordered.
For the 643. For the 643.
Get your questions ready. Derek and Patrick will be on in 1 minute.
For the 643.
Just what the doctor ordered.
For the 643. For the 643. For the 643.
The stream will begin in 30 seconds.
For the 643. For the 643.
Just what the doctor ordered.
This is the 643 DP podcast with Derek and
For the
Patrick.
643.
The show is about to begin.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 643 DP podcast. As usual, I'm Patrick Hennessy, joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Derek Lewandowski, a.k.a. MYY Recaps, a.k.a. The Real Deal Heel. Derek, you go under many aliases, don't you?
You know, I like to keep it. I like to keep it changing, keep it fresh.
Like to keep it fresh. You know who doesn't like to keep it fresh? Actually, maybe you could say they do like to keep it fresh, because last time we talked, they were on like a 7-game win streak, extended that to 13, and now the Yankees are looking like a new team. 4-game losing streak, not in a good way, though. But listen, we're going to get into a bunch of stuff today regarding the disastrous Yankees over the past 4 games. How this West Coast trip kind of began in a great way and then just slowly but surely began to decline. But before we get into anything, let's take a 10-slash roll call. You guys know the deal. Let's see who we got in the chat today. We got Jose, Michael, Steven. We got Alexander. Who else we got? We got Patrick Booty, New York style. I still don't know if that's his real name, but I don't know. We got Pim Paul. We got Jason, Lori, Mod of the Century. D&E Show, aka Amy. Appreciate you all so much for stopping by. It is a beautiful Wednesday night, even though it's absolutely pouring in New York and Derek's playing with his cat. But like, dude, it's still a solid day. So listen, Derek, I guess we kind of start things off by addressing the Yankees' little 4-game losing skid that they're on here. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought these days of like looking at like these shit show Yankees were over. And now all of a sudden, like after that 13-game win streak, it seems like they're just not locked in mentally and they've just completely collapsed.
So my take on it is that even when they were winning, they were squeaking by in a lot of those games. They were close games. And now the close games are going the other way. So it's like they've just lost a little bit of whatever magic energy that they had. And it's turned them from a team that was streaking on the positive side to a team that's streaking on the negative side. I honestly think they're a little bit worn out. I think they need a day off in New York on Thursday. And then they, hopefully against the Orioles can wreck some shop. You don't even really need to play everybody against the Orioles in every game. I think the Orioles series is a good chance to give Giancarlo Stanton a day off, Aaron Judge a day off, let Luke Voit play a couple of games to let Rizzo rest if he needs to. I think they're just tired.
Well, I mean, listen, speaking of Giancarlo Stanton getting a day off, he's actually getting a day off today. Now I'm so confused at like the Yankees lineup construction over the past few days. You can see my little sign in the back. It says free Voit, dude. Just because I've been on this hashtag free Voit train for a couple days now. And even though he is in the lineup today, I'm not officially being like, okay, I'm satisfied with the Yankees treatment of Luke Voit. Giancarlo Stanton is sitting today. Personally, I hate to like get into like Yankee conspiracy theories here, but the only reasoning in my mind is like why Luke Voit has sat the past couple of days, and now Giancarlo Stanton sitting tonight, and then Aaron Boone comes out with the reasoning. He's like, oh, it's just a day, even though we have a day off tomorrow. I think that Giancarlo Stanton might be dealing with something. Maybe it's like lower leg tightness or something like that, and they just don't want to tell us for whatever reason. But I think that would be the only reasoning in my mind as to why Luke Voit sat the first 2 games of the Angels series, the first game of the Athletic series, and now Giancarlo Stanton seemingly needs a day off today. That's the only conspiracy in my mind that makes sense here.
So I actually haven't seen the lineup yet today. So if you want to pull that up,
I'll pull it up right here.
Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if Giancarlo was dealing with something, but it also could just be a day off. One thing that we've seen the Yankees do over the past few years is try and give some of the guys like Judge and Stanton 2 days off in a row whenever possible. Like you'll see one of them get a day off before a off day. Wouldn't surprise me to see Aaron Judge get Friday night off. So that way
He
you
probably
give him
will.
2 days off. You know what I mean? And as far as Voit goes, I'm in 100% agreement. I'm glad he's in there tonight. But the guy was red hot 2 weeks ago, and that was one of the reasons that you were on fire. The guy was knocking in runs, and it wasn't with the home run. He was hitting broken bat singles. He was making contact. He was ripping the ball down the left field line. I mean, how many shots did we see him rip down the left field line over a 3 or 4 day span? It seemed like every other at bat he was doing it. And then you get to Atlanta, and he sits, and that cooled him off, obviously. And they just you figure you're going to put him back in afterwards, but you sit him that first game afterwards, and now he's in a slump. And now they're sitting him, and he's not getting regular playing time. If I'm Luke Voit, I'm telling my agent to trade me.
No. If I'm Luke Voit right now, I'm storming into Boone's little office there, and I'm being like, bro, like, what are we doing? Because at this point, it's so strange because I believe after the Rizzo trade, there was a whole bunch of nonsense in the media being like, oh, Luke Voigt's not happy. He wants to be like the everyday guy, whatever. But then Aaron Boone comes out and he's like, don't worry, like Luke Voigt's still going to be playing like a key role on this team. Clearly, the key role that Boone was talking about is just being like the Yankees pinch hitting option, because it looks like Luke Voigt's only going to be starting maybe like 2 to 3 days a week. 3 days, I would say max, maybe 4. But it's so aggravating because we know how much better the Yankees lineup is. Not only lineup, but defensively as well when Luke Voit is in the lineup. Because if Luke Voit's in the lineup, that means that he's DHing, right? And then you're able to put Giancarlo Stanton in the outfield. And I think when you're able to put Giancarlo Stanton in the outfield, the defense is 10 times better as well. You're able to put Aaron Judge in center field. You have 3 tremendous arms out there. I think the whole narrative that Giancarlo Stanton isn't a good fielder, that's completely dead. I know he misplayed a ball out in Oakland, but bro, regardless, based on what we've seen out of Stanton in the outfield for what, like over a month now, he's looked pretty solid out there. So I don't understand the reasoning as to why like Luke Voigt's just being blackballed by the organization. And I know like this conversation always comes back to one guy and one guy only. It's Brett Gardner, Derek. And I think that if there was ever like a time to maybe like give Stanton an off day, it probably would have been yesterday with a right-hander on the mound. You have a lefty on the mound today, and you throw out Rougned Odor and Brett Gardner into that lineup going up against a left-handed pitcher. It doesn't make sense to me as to why today would be the day for an off day for Stanton. Blows my mind. And Derek, I'm pissed. I'm upset.
I'm getting kind of tired of seeing Brett Gardner out there. I mean, I get it. He's been playing pretty good defense, but at this point in the season, you really needed to put some runs on the board, keep that streak going for as long as you could. And even after the streak ended, it's like, get back on the horse, start another one. You've got the Angels and the Orioles. You could have had another 6-game streak to back it up. You could have been 19-1. How often does that happen? It's not 20-0, but it could have been 19-1. And I just feel like the Yankees are horsing around with the analytics a bit too much at this point. They're going with the lineup that the computers spit, which it doesn't even make sense to me, because you wouldn't put Brett Gardner in there unless you're running like a 1984 Mac 1. You know what I mean? Like what kind of analysis?
Unless you're like one of those Yankee fans on Twitter that just calls me out every 5 seconds for disrespecting a Yankee great. You know what I mean?
Look, it's not disrespect to be honest about it, right? I mean, look, I love the guy just as much as anybody else for his contributions in the past, but you can't argue with a 660 OPS. He's hitting 213. He's hitting, I mean, Gary Sanchez hitting 213. You got 2 guys in the lineup that are just killing you offensively.
Yeah, but then the argument is that like Gardner's batted like 250 over his last 30 games. And that's the argument that people make for him.
And that's a recency bias. That's
Sure.
That's a logical fallacy. There's a reason that the average takes into account the whole year. It tells you in aggregate what you've been for the entire season. It's like they say your record is what you are what your record says you are, is, you know, the phrase or whatever. Your stats are typically what kind of player you are. You know, you look at these guys' stats. I mean, whose stats don't really line up with the type of player they've been this year? I mean, maybe Gio Urshela, I would expect his numbers to be a little bit better because he seemed to have shined, but he's also been injured a lot. So, Stanton and Judge have both had pretty good years, not amazing years, but they both got, really good stats. But outside of that, everybody's been pretty pedestrian, and Gardner's having by far the worst year of his career.
Yeah, and he'll be back next season, though. Don't worry. But I want to bring up this donor here from you, Elvis. $5 donor. Appreciate you so much, you Elvis. You're an absolute legend. He says 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 combined for a 200 batting average. Let that sink in. And I'm not one to kind of like go firmly by batting average as far as like determining a player's value, because like Joey Gallo, he's one of those guys. He's obviously sucked with the Yankees. But I think he's one of those guys where like you look at batting average and it doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. But I mean, regardless, you look at the Yankees 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 hitters. They should not be combining for a 200 batting average, especially tonight. And this is what pisses me off so much too, Derek. Like, we know that the Yankees are on a 4-game losing streak. Like, they should know that too, with an off day tomorrow. So you would think that they would throw out their absolute best lineup out there tonight and just kind of go for like ending this losing streak. We have Kyle Higashioka batting 6th. Like, in what world does that make sense? Clearly, in the Yankees world, I guess it does because they did it tonight. But I don't know how many times like we could keep making excuses for Aaron Boone. Like, I know he gets handed a lineup, whatever, from the analytics department. But at the same time, it's like, are you that out of touch with the game? And are you that out of touch with your team where you feel like guys need off days when they have an off day tomorrow?
I honestly think that they recognize what the math says, which is you're not playing 9 games better than the Rays the rest of the way. I'm sorry, you're not.
So they've conceded, basically.
Well, I don't want to say they've conceded, but they're not going to they're not going to put undue, stress on these guys in terms of playing them day after day after day. They're going to stick to their prescribed rest schedules in order to make sure that everybody's healthy going into the playoffs. And I think they're just going to try and line it up to where they get as many people swinging the bat well and as many people throwing the ball well as you can going into the playoffs. And you put the ball in the hands of Garrett Cole in the wild card game, and you say, hey, go out there and give up 0 or 1 run and we'll get you a couple. And then you got to just go into the division series saying, all right, we're healthy. Let's make the best combination each night. Whether it's Voit one night, whether it's Stanton another night, let's put the best lineup out there every single day to give us a chance. I think that's just the way they're going. They realize it's a crapshoot and that they have to go 1 extra round. So I think they're just trying to keep everybody healthy for that crapshoot.
Yeah, I mean, if Voigt's not starting the wild card game, you'll probably see me come on here and just like destroy my computer. I'm just throwing that one out there. But listen, today is September 1st. Eric, did you see the Yankees' 2 little short-term September call-ups?
Brooks Krisky and Estevan Florial. I like Florial. I hope I hope he sticks around.
I doubt it.
I want to see them.
I don't think there's any shot. Because my assumption here is that they're basically just placeholders for Albert Abreu and Gleyber Torres. Like, that's what my assumption is. Unless when Gleyber comes back, they keep Florial and send down Velasquez, which I can't see happening. So I think those two are kind of just placeholders until Abreu's eligible to come back up, and then Gleyber comes back. I think Friday he should be back.
Hey, did you ever catch what the injury was for Steven Ridings? I saw he got placed on the injured list.
No, I didn't.
They didn't say what it was. I hope it's nothing serious because I want to see him at some point.
I mean, at this late in the season, if it's anything like fairly serious, I think that there's probably no shot he even comes back because the minor league season ends probably within the next week or so, right? Because I know they end like early September.
Yeah, they're usually done about a week into September, and then they have the playoffs. Gleyber sounds like he could be back pretty soon. I don't think we're going to see Andujar or Frazier at all. We're probably not going to see. I mean, we might see Severino, but not as a starter for sure. We might see him out of the bullpen, but
yeah. I can't find any chat. If you guys could find anything about the Steven Ridings injury, let me know because I literally can't find anything about it. But another guy I guess we could talk about, Derek, your name for today, the real deal heel. I'm disappointed solely because I still don't see a scenario where he's able to come back up with the Yankees, like without like any sort of injury or anything. I'm looking at their current roster construction. And like I said, Albert Abreu is probably going to be the guy replacing Brooks Krisky. But in my head, I think the ideal scenario would be to DFA Heaney, just literally get him off the team. He provides no value. He never provided any value outside of that one Boston start, and bring up Luis Gil. He can't be any worse, especially if you're going to be using Heaney in like a long relief role. Why not give Gil that opportunity to do so? 15 major league innings, hasn't given up a single earned run. He shouldn't have been sent down in the first place. So why not bring him back up now, DFA Heaney? And I'll give you my probably reasoning why. The Yankees don't want to admit defeat in the Heaney deal. They don't want to, like, a month after acquiring him, just give him the boot and be like, you know what? Yeah, we messed up by trading for him. So that's kind of why I can't see it happening.
Well, that could be one part of it. I don't know the particulars with service time, but they also could be playing some kind of a service time game with Luis Gil, to where, like, if you keep him in the major leagues for a certain amount of time, maybe it gives him an extra year of service time. I don't know. They might be trying to hold him back. That's one thought. But I think the rule goes in September, you can suit up to 28 different people. Like, you just basically can suit 28 people from your 40 man. So you might be able to, on a certain day, just not suit somebody like an Albert Abreu who has options and or who is on the 40 man but flexible. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but they might have the opportunity to just put in Gil on the day he starts.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would probably make sense. But also, I think I think right now, since it's September 1st, we have like a month left until the postseason. I think what the Yankees are doing is they're probably evaluating their roster in a sense of looking towards like a playoff scenario. And can you possibly see Luis Gil on the Yankees ALDS roster? Obviously, he won't be on the wild card roster because he'll be carrying more hitters than pitchers. But can you see him on the Yankees ALDS roster?
I can, just because last year Davy Garcia made it just to pitch, one inning or 2 innings, whatever it was. It really depends on the matchup. They're probably going to be playing the Rays, right? Or will they be playing the Astros?
I'm assuming
unclear
they're
at this
going to be
point.
playing the Rays. I mean, based on the rate that they're going. I mean,
Yeah. I think it's going to come down to the matchup and who's healthy and who's throwing the ball well at that time. I mean, if Luis Gil comes up and makes a start end of September and pitches really well and he shows that he's throwing the ball well, I see no reason not to put him on. You want to go with the hottest hand in the playoffs.
who do you replace, though?
Like you said, Andrew Heaney has got to go. I can't see him getting, you can't put a guy out there who gives up home runs all the time in the playoffs. I could see them leaving off one of the relievers. I'm not sure who, I'm not sure who it would be, but whoever's not pitching well at that moment, if Chad Green's trying, I can't see him being left off, but if somebody is, if somebody's imploding at the end of the season, my mind is slipping right now, but let me just take a look at it, see who we got. I mean, they're definitely going to carry Nestor Cortez, definitely going to carry Jordan Montgomery, but in a 5-game series, maybe they decide they don't need 5 starters. Maybe you leave Corey Kluber off or Jameson Taillon off if they're not pitching well at the moment,
That would take Taillon would have to be really, really bad going through the month of September.
I mean, but it's happened before. I mean, we've seen this. We've seen guys get left off before in favor of a power arm for the bullpen. You got to believe Wandy Peralta is going to be on there. You got to believe that Clay Holmes is going to be on there. Joely Rodriguez, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's throwing the ball pretty well, but I could see a scenario where, he doesn't match up well with whatever team they're pitching. I mean, there's a lot of different combinations they could go with. I definitely see Corey Kluber. If he's not throwing the ball well, I could see him being left off because you're going to need one less starter in a 5-game series.
Sure. And kind of speaking of Jameson Taillon, we kind of touched on him a little bit. But I mean, last night, another really bad start for him. I believe that's 4 or 5 straight at this point where he's given up more than 3 runs in each of his starts. I'm not going to lie, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about him, simply because we talked about this a little bit earlier on in the year. I thought that maybe like in June, July, the Yankees were going to put Taillon on a little phantom IL stint, right? Maybe just to lighten his workload, make sure he didn't really lose any steam towards the end of the year. And it looks like that's what's happening. It looks like Taillon might be a little bit gassed out. Last time he made this many starts was 2018? So 3 years ago. I'm a little bit concerned about Jameson Taillon that he's just completely fatigued at this point in the season.
Yeah, we saw the same thing with Domingo Germán. He was getting tired right before he got injured. He had that great start against Boston, comes out and gets hurt. I think guys, on every team are feeling the effects of having a very shortened season last year and now a full season this year. throw in the fact that Taillon didn't really pitch much the last couple of years. Herman didn't pitch at all last year. The effects are kind of amplified for guys who didn't pitch much. Corey Kluber, same deal. Didn't really pitch. You start having to make these consistent starts, and it wears you down. I mean, even like 4 or 5 starts, that's 40 or 50 innings. That's a lot of pitches for an arm that's not prepared for it. That's a lot of pitches. You can see why guys break down. I think that they're probably going to have to put Taillon out of the rotation at least one trip through the rotation in September. That might be where Luis Heel steps in. Maybe you say Taillon is just a little fatigued, giving him a day off, and you just let him skip a spot. You go to a 6-man rotation for a couple of weeks. There's a lot of options. I think that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would probably make the most sense. All I know is, like, I'm looking at the Yankees rotation right now, and the fact that they probably do have to play a wild card game makes me very nervous for a potential ALDS, right? Because now we went from looking at like a Yankees rotation earlier on in the year and being so confident in them in a playoff series. I'm looking, let's say Garrett Cole would have to pitch the wild card game. Who's pitching game 1? Taillon, Monty, Kluber.
Nestor.
I'm not, maybe Nestor. I can't really see it happening. I think they probably value him a little bit more in like a bullpen.
I mean, Jordan
spot.
Montgomery. Jordan Montgomery's been great this year. Jordan Montgomery's got a 3.52 ERA this year.
I still don't view him as a game 1 starter. I just don't.
Yeah, and you don't have any other options. Your game 1. That's the whole point of winning the division. You have a game 1 starter, but he's not going to be able to pitch game 1 because you didn't get it done. You started out 5-11, and then you lost however many in a row, 4 now, and in counting.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just the way it goes. The Yankees are going to have to deal with that. They're going to have to count on one of these guys to step up. That's what it is. Jordan Montgomery's going to have to step up, or Nestor Cortez is going to have to step up. You can hope that Corey Kluber is pitching well by that point. I think he might be doing a little bit better. If you can get him ramped up to where he was before he got hurt, I mean, that gives you a legitimate number 1. I think the Yankees can beat the Rays. I really do. And here is a benefit. Okay, let's say you go down to Tampa Bay, right? And you play those first 2 games in Tampa Bay. All you really need is a split, and you don't have to go back, because you can throw Garrett Cole in a game and shut it down. You pick up a game 3 win in New York. If you can pick up that game 3 win, you can shut it down with Garrett Cole in game 4. Unfortunate side to that is then you have to go back to, if you don't win, you have to go back to an unknown for a game 5, which is something that I know you don't want to do. Last year, the Yankees were fortunate enough to have Garrett Cole in that game 5. I think we're going to see another 5-game series, and it's going to be in Tampa Bay, and it's going to come down to exactly what it came down to last season. We said this during spring training, and we said it when the Yankees were struggling at the beginning of the year. They'll probably get hot at some point. They'll get into a playoff position. They'll pass some of the pretenders, and then they'll get into the playoffs, and it's going to come down to the same thing it's come down to for the last 20 years now, which is timely hitting with runners in scoring position and getting the big outs late in the game on the defensive side. That's what it's going to come down to. We'll see if they have it this year. If they get by the Rays, Yanks are going to the World Series.
No, I mean, I would have to agree 1,000%. I think whoever does win that Yankees Rays series is probably going to the World Series. The same case as like the postseason last year. It just seems like it's playing out all over again. But I'm so concerned as far as like you said, like getting those outs in the big spots. Looking into the postseason, obviously we're still like over a month away, but I don't have faith in like the back end of the Yankees bullpen. And I don't think that they should be afraid to kind of like try new guys out in high leverage spots. We've seen Albert Abreu come in a lot more in high leverage situations. I've seen Wandy Peralta come in a lot more in high leverage situations. To be honest with you right now, Dan called me crazy for this, but I think if it comes down to it, I probably have more faith in, and yes, this is a recency bias, sure. I have more faith in Albert Abreu and Wandy Peralta than a combo of Chad Green and Aroldis Chapman, just based on the way they've been pitching lately.
I'm not going to disagree, and I'm not going to agree. On any given night, any pitcher can get any hitter out, right? I mean, if you look at just statistical values in baseball, 70% of the time, even if you're a good hitter, you're going to be out because the pitcher's going to get you out. I mean, that's if you're a good hitter. Most of the time, it's going to be about 75% of the time. You are going to make it out. It's all about who can get the big outs in the key situations, who can throw strikes under pressure. I have no confidence in Chad Green or Aroldis Chapman to throw strikes under pressure right now.
Sure.
They've both been struggling with, command out of the zone. Zach Britton was another guy we were counting on. He's done. I like Jonathan Loaizaga to throw strikes and get big outs.
He's going to be huge.
To me, you're going to ride the hell out of him 7th and 8th innings a lot. A lot of the time, he's going to be asked to get 6 outs the way Mariano was in 96. Who do you go to for those last 3 outs? I'm sure if you got a 3-run lead, they're going to turn to Aroldis Chapman. But I could see them going to Wandy Peralta with a 2-run lead and a couple of guys who don't hit the changeup very well coming up. I could see them matching that up, which, how does that make Aroldis Chapman feel? Is he going to bitch about it? Is he going to sulk? Is he going to come back the next time and be pissed off and blow everybody away on 9 pitches? You just don't know. You just don't know. It's
Derek,
weird.
when you said and he's going to blow everyone away, I was thinking something totally different until you were saying like 9 pitches.
He'd be pissed because you didn't go to a save situation and walk in there with it. No,
so pissed. No, I get it 1000%. And I think that's why a lot of people are kind of just, I think that's the Yankees' same mentality too, right? I think they're going to probably stick with Chad Green and Aroldis Chapman simply because they just have like that name value and just the history behind them. But I don't know. The postseason is going to be very interesting this year. I've said it so many times. If the Yankees get past Boston or Oakland or hopefully Seattle, maybe they could find a way into the wild card game against us. But the Yankees will be heavy favorites to come out of the American League and move on to the World Series. They just have to get there. Bro, if the Yankees find a way to choke this first wildcard spot, I'd be sick to my stomach. Derek, I would come on here and absolutely vomit my brains out just because how do you tease us like that? Like, that would be the most 2021 Yankees things ever, much like this past week has been. It's so up and down roller coaster. Would I be shocked if the Yankees, like, blew this first wildcard spot? Not really, but would I be, like, mentally distraught? 100%.
You know what? If that happens, though, it's going to be really good for our channels because the offseason is going to be very active.
It will.
Seriously, people will be pissed off. People will want change. There's going to be a lot of rumors about Aaron Boone and Marcus Timms or, these final 4 weeks, whatever goes wrong, if that happens, they're going to take the blame. I don't care if, I don't care what kind of season Aaron Judge has had. If Aaron Judge gets a hamstring pull or an oblique injury, if he has an oblique injury or a recurring injury like he's had in the past in the next couple of days and has to miss the rest of the season, knock on wood.
Well, don't say that,
and I apologize for even putting that out there into the universe.
Dan's going to come at your neck, dude.
No, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I would hate it if it happened, but I'm saying if that happened, New York fans would be calling for him to be traded. They would be calling that would change the narrative of his season. Right now, he's had a borderline MVP season. If Shohei Ohtani got abducted by aliens tomorrow and was gone for the season, he's probably still done enough to win the MVP. But, Judge hits 10 more home runs. I mean, maybe it goes the other way. Ohtani's probably going to win the MVP. But if he didn't exist, Judge would have a real shot. He really would.
Sure, and I still think he finishes probably like third. That's my assumption here. But I mean, I'm looking at like if the Yankees collapsed or whatever. Very active offseason, I'd hope. But also I'm looking at Aaron Boone right now. I don't know like where his job status lies because let's say the Yankees go out, knock on wood, lose that wild card game to the Red Sox. Watching the Red Sox celebrate on the field at Yankee Stadium, I'd want to cry. And then not to mention, I'd check Twitter after the game and we'd probably get a quote from Aaron Boone and we'd say something like this. Well, we've battled so much adversity this year. And I'm very proud of what our guys were able to accomplish nonetheless. And that's exactly what we'd be getting. And then a couple weeks later, we'd find out, well, Aaron Boone signs a 2 to 3 year extension. Do you think that there's any doubt that Aaron Boone is not the Yankees manager going into next year?
I mean, there's always doubt. I mean, Grady Little was a lock to be the manager until he left Pedro in the game in Game 7 of 2003. Things can change. Joe Girardi not challenging that call in Cleveland that led to a grand slam in 2017. Luckily, the team came back and won that series. But at that point, everyone was saying Girardi was coming back. And then when that happened, it was like a lot of people were saying Girardi's got to go.
I think the move to like boot Girardi at the end of the season, I think that came in like the summer of 2017. Have you read Inside the Empire?
I did. And I know that they say one thing, but you don't want to say that any one decision came down on somebody's job. And
sure,
I just don't necessarily buy it. If somebody messes up in the playoffs, it's a big deal, right? And I've just been watching it for too long. In New York, you have to succeed in the playoffs, and if you don't, typically you're held accountable. There's a couple other things that we got to talk about because I know we're running out of time. Joey Gallo.
Yeah.
I saw somebody mention I think it was Lori C says, when are we going to have that hot streak that we were promised? He's not going to have a hot streak. This is what he does. Now he's hitting for less of an average than we anticipated, but he'll go 2 weeks where he gets 3 hits and then he'll hit 5 home runs in 2 games or something like that. He's already had a couple, he's had a multiple home run game. He had a game where he had or 2 games where he had home runs back to back. He does that. He'll go through these mini little bursts. That's the type of player he is.
Call me crazy, Derek. Oh, no. Finish your point.
And I was going to say, the fact that he's hitting into ground balls has got me he's hitting the double plays has got me very nervous because he's not a ground ball guy. If they've tweaked his swing and he's going to hit ground balls into the shift now, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind.
No, and it's so weird because, I was going to say, Joey Gallo, I think joining the Yankees, he had, 9 double plays his entire career, something like that. And now he already has, 3 with the Yankees or something like that, maybe 4. I don't understand how this happens. You come to the Yankees and automatically you just become, a double play hitter. But I'm kind of looking at Joey Gallo's numbers before joining the Yankees. In his last 19 games with the Rangers, so basically the entire month of July, he batted 190, but he had an 873 OPS. So that's why I kind of say that batting average doesn't really tell the whole story. And we knew what we were gonna get out of Joey Gallo when he came to the Yankees. But since coming over to the Yankees, in 30 games, we're looking at a 656 OPS. So now that's kind of trending towards Brett Gardner territory. That's not what we were looking to get at Joey Gallo here. And yeah, he does have 5 home runs, but that's still probably much less than we expected. I'm getting frustrated. I'm not gonna lie. And I think also when people throw out his strikeout numbers, he has 52 strikeouts and 100 at bats. That's meaningless to me. Simply because I'd rather see him strike out than hit into a double play. The double play is what I'm most concerned with.
Well, here's where that recency bias comes into play. He's got a 6-something OPS. You said 690 something OPS since joining the Yankees. Here's what's going to happen. He's going to go play Baltimore this weekend. He's going to hit 4 home runs in 3 games or something like that. And it's going to be 850. And then he's going to go 1 for 20. And then the next time they play Baltimore, he's going to do it again. Something like that. That's who he is. That's what he is. That's probably why they're trying to tweak his swing and why he's hitting more ground balls. The guy's been in the league 7-8 years, and he's got 25% of his career double plays in the last week.
But that's what I'm saying. The Yankees had to have tweaked something, and if they did, Marcus Thames has to just be left in Los Angeles. That's what it has to be at this point. Because, dude, you can't look at a hitter like Joey Gallo and expect him to kind of just change his entire plate approach over the last week, bro. Like you said, he's been in the league since 2015. And he's not a guy who's ever going to hit for a high batting average. I'm looking at his numbers right here. He has 1 season in his whole career where he batted over 210. It's just not something that's going to be happening. He's a guy who's going to give you a 200 batting average, hit 40 home runs, and have a plus 800 OPS. And that's what the Yankees thought that they acquired. I don't know why. And obviously we're just making assumptions here. I don't know why they're tweaking with his swing to try to make him more of a contact hitter. That's not who they acquired. If that's what you wanted, go out and give up a boatload for Adam Frazier. You know what I mean?
To be clear, we don't know that that's what's happening. I mean, we're drawing that assumption because he's in over the span of a weekend. We saw a line drive. We saw a few ground balls. I mean, it could just be luck of the draw. I mean, it's hard to go however many years and only hit into 9 double play balls. So maybe it's just the luck of it hitting at the wrong time, anti-luck or whatever. But it would make
mind blowing though.
It would make sense that they're making adjustments. We know that he's been working with Tim's. We saw Rougned Odor try and change his swing a little bit when he came over. Didi Gregorius was able to do it successfully. Curtis Granderson was able to do it successfully. But there's usually a period in there where they stink for a while. And I think that might be what's happening with Joey Gallo, if indeed they are working to revamp some things.
Yeah, and I the only part that pisses me off so much is someone made a comment. It was either in my pregame or postgame last night. They're like, Pat, why don't you hold Joey Gallo the same amount of accountable as you do Brett Gardner? And I'm like, I know you're not saying that right now because you can't compare the 2 hitters whatsoever. If you want to look at a very small sample size of their last 15 games, sure, Joey Gallo's probably been worse than Brett Gardner. But what you have to do is look at the ceiling of both players. You look at the defense that Joey Gallo still provides. I know he misplayed a ball in Oakland, whatever. The entire team sucked in Oakland. But I'm obviously going to like give Joey Gallo crap when he needs it. But I think looking like towards the future, we still have Joey Gallo under contract for next season. I still think that he can make a huge impact on this Yankees team, if not September, because he could still have a huge month of September and go into the playoffs, have an awesome postseason, and everyone forgets about what he did once he first came over. And then we have him for next season too. So I'm still fairly confident in what we're going to be seeing from Joey Gallo, like in his career with the Yankees.
Yeah, most guys have that adjustment period when they come to the Yankees. We see it with every free agent. I think it's reasonable to expect it with a midseason trade as well. And, Anthony Rizzo is kind of the exception. He was great from the start. Not everybody can play like Anthony Rizzo and just, slide right into New York. He's got a personality kind of like DJ LeMahieu, where nothing really seems to bother him. It just kind of, water off a duck's back. Whereas Gallo, I'm going to tell you a story. Gallo, you see on, last night he hits in the double play. He goes and sits down on the bench, and you see him, cursing and saying, wow, I can't believe I did that. There was a story that Billy Beane told about why he never became a great player. He became a great GM, but he was not a great player despite having all the tools in the world. He said when he was in the minor leagues with Lenny Dykstra. I don't know if you know who Lenny Dykstra is. He was a classic.
I heard of him, yeah.
Player. Yeah, he was a really hard-nosed player, but he was really dumb. I mean, he was dumber than a bag of hammers.
He's gotten himself into some trouble, right?
Yeah, he's still dumb.
Yeah.
So what happened was, Dykstra would go 0 for 4, and Billy Beane would go 0 for 4, and Beane would be in the dugout or in the clubhouse just, wounded from this and upset, and Dykstra would be like, all right, where are we going to dinner? What bar are we going to? And it's like, some people can just brush aside the failure. Gallo seems like one of those guys who gets into a streak and he lives and dies with his confidence. A little like Giancarlo Stanton. I think Giancarlo Stanton is a similar, he doesn't show it as openly, but he's a guy who, when he's not performing, I think it eats him up inside. And when he is performing, he just gets cocky and he can go on one of those streaks. And I think we're going to see Gallo go on one of those streaks. And when he does, we're going to be singing his praises again. I just think that's how it's going to go.
No, for sure. And listen, speaking of Stanton, don't really worry about his hot streak getting too hot because he's sitting tonight. So after these 2 off days, don't be surprised if his streak just dies. But before we do wrap things up today, there's one more guy I want to talk about, Derek. And it's one guy that's kind of been like talk of the town as far as the Yankees go lately. It's Gio Urshela. I feel like the fan base has just completely turned on him in like the past week or so. I'm not going to lie. I'm starting to kind of question the future of Gio Urshela with the Yankees as well. Simply because I know it's going to take him a little bit of time to get acclimated with his bat since coming off the IL, right? He was out for about a month. He's looked awful at the plate since coming back. But the part that I'm mainly concerned about here is like his defense hasn't looked that good since coming back either. And that's usually something that isn't as rusty when first coming back from the IL, especially with a guy like Gio Urshela, who we kind of pride ourselves in having one of the best defensive third basemen in the league. So obviously, I think he's kind of going to put himself together fairly soon. But also at the same time, going into the offseason, if the Yankees can find a way to upgrade third base and maybe deal Gio Urshela, I wouldn't be completely opposed to it.
I've thought about that. I haven't seen the same amount of hate that you've seen. But then again, with the Yankees on the West Coast, I haven't been doing a lot of live shows. I've been doing a lot of pre-recorded stuff. And I've been more judicious about not paying as much attention to the comments. I'm trying to get away from my phone. Honestly, with the Yankees doing this poorly for the last few days, it's tough to read the constant negative feedback.
It's toxic. Bro, people have given up on the season. It's crazy.
And when you have a channel that's that people come to on habit after Yankee games, they just want to come vent. And so like I'll wake up in the morning and the Yankees have lost, and a lot of the comments are just horrible. And so I've been trying to not be influenced by that. I just want to separate myself from it and use my own eyes. He struggled a little bit defensively, but offense and defense can both have slumps. Pitching can have slumps. Everything can have slumps. I think Gio's going to make a couple of nice plays and he'll start hitting. So I'm not worried about Gio. As far as next season goes, I mean, it might be something where the Yankees have to take a look at it. I've still loved Gio. I still think Gio's a great player. It might be one of the situations where, you have Oswald Peraza and you have Anthony Volpe both playing really well in the minor leagues. Maybe you slide one of them over to third base next year, keep Gio for one more year, see how he does. If he's doing well at the trade deadline, maybe you move him then and call up one of the youngsters. That could be a situation. Maybe, he plays the whole year and maybe you bring up somebody else for 2023. I don't think they're ready to give up on Gio. I just think he's had a rough week. And again, recency bias. We got to be
Sure.
careful about making judgments about a player based on the most recent thing that we've seen. All I've seen from Gio is a guy who works really hard, who plays really solid defense, who's really tough. He's going through a tough time right now. He's coming back off an injury. He didn't have a lot of rehab outings. I want to give Gio the benefit of the doubt.
For sure. I think also, well, like what my point kind of is as well is like going into this year's offseason, like regardless of kind of what happens in the postseason, unless they win the World Series, obviously. I have like a handful of guys in this Yankees lineup that I kind of consider untouchable. Probably like an Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, probably Joey Gallo. He's not going anywhere. But other than that, I'm looking at every single person on in this everyday lineup, and I'm considering everybody just being expendable, whether that's Gio Urshela, Gleyber Torres, DJ LeMahieu, Gary Sanchez. Whatever has to be done in the offseason has to be done. And it's not like we have guys, it's not like Gio Urshela and Gleyber Torres are the same guys that they were like in 2019, right? When we looked at them as like untouchable, they're going to be at that left side of the infield for years to come. I'm looking at both of them right now, and I'm saying if there's an opportunity that arises where we could kind of improve, I'm all for it. And I think that's what every Yankee fan should kind of be on board for.
I am a big fan of Gleyber Torres. I love the kid as a human being, his energy, but his swing, it looks like an unfolded lawn chair, and it has all season. And so they need to get him straightened out, or they need to move him, because you can't have your shortstop, who's just an average defender at best, not putting up any offensive numbers.
Yeah, and that's kind of what concerns me so much, right? Because Gleyber is expected to come back on Friday. He's obviously going to be the Yankees' like primary. He's going to be their starting shortstop going into the postseason. I think that they have to bring in like a defensive replacement for him, like the same way that they do it for Giancarlo Stanton all the time. Like, bro, don't waste a defensive replacement on Giancarlo Stanton in the postseason. Waste your defensive replacement on bringing someone in for Gleyber Torres, because looking at Andrew Velasquez and what he's provided to the Yankees, like defensively at shortstop, I'm going to miss that so much, like late in games, because when I see a ball hit to shortstop nowadays, like I'm like, all right, like there's no doubt in my mind that's going to be an out, but I'm going to be holding my breath in the postseason when a ball is hit to Gleyber Torres, especially late in the game, late in a close game.
I'm more worried about seeing Brett Gardner come up to the plate in a big situation. I would much rather see a Greg Allen in there. Yeah. Like maybe you leave. It's never going to happen. They'll never do it. They will never do it. But they should leave Gardner off the postseason roster.
They'll never do it. It's mind blowing to me simply because, like, if I'm looking at like the outfield rankings in the Yankees farm system, major league roster, whatever, it's obviously an outfield of Joey Gallo, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and my ideal fourth outfielder would probably be Greg Allen. And then even below him, I have Estevan Florial over Brett Gardner. Right. So Brett Gardner's probably like my sixth outfielder at this point, but somehow, some way, he'll be getting postseason starts, and it's
and that's only because Miguel Andujar and Clint Frazier.
Sure,
I'd rather see both of those guys in there, half dead than Brett Gardner.
No, fair enough. And even Melanie mentions Wade. I might like Wade out there over Brett Gardner as well.
Defensively, I think he's every bit as fast as Brett Gardner. I don't know about his routes. Brett Gardner, he made a catch that only 5% of the time gets caught in Oakland. He's going to do that
ball though.
He's going to.
Did you see the crap I got on Twitter for that? People can't tell like when it's a clear joke or not.
He's going to make catches like that, but I just don't want to see Brett Gardner up there against a guy throwing 98 with a nasty down and in slider in the bottom of the eighth or the top of the eighth or the top of the ninth in a 1-1 game
instead
in the
of
playoff.
Stanton.
I don't want to see that happen. Even if it had to be a Greg Allen or somebody, like let's say you do go with a defensive replacement, I would much rather see a guy who is not going to try and launch the ball out of the ballpark. Brett Gardner still tries and hit home runs every day. He still tries to hit. Look at his swing. He tries to hit a home run every time. He'll occasionally get base hits. I want somebody up there who's going to battle, who might lay a bunt down, and who, when he gets on base, can actually still make things happen. Gardner is not the same. We look at him, and it's like me looking in the mirror and seeing myself at 23 when I'm all fit. And I ignore the bald spot and the gray hair and the pudgy stomach. Gardner, we look at him and we see the fast guy from 2009, 2010, 2011. He's not that fast anymore. He's about 53rd percentile in league, speed. He gets good jumps. That's about it. He takes a lot of pitches. Other than that, he has zero value.
But that's also what I'm saying. It's like we started off today talking about this, and now here we are again. But in a postseason scenario, I don't see why you need to bring in like Brett Gardner as a defensive replacement, because that's what we're basically hinting to, right? The Yankees have been doing it just about all year. Giancarlo Stanton's not that bad in the outfield, and it's like you lose so much value with an at bat, because, like you said, he's definitely going to be getting another at bat, whether that's in the 8th or the 9th. You have to leave him in the game.
I'm going to give you an example. Okay, let's say it's the top of the 8th inning, okay? And it's 1-1. And you got 2 outs and Giancarlo Stanton at the plate against a tough right-hander in Tampa on the turf. Let's say Giancarlo hits a ground rule double. It's a double and legs it out, whatever it is. You need that run to score. You're going to put in Tyler Wade to pinch run, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you want to put Tyler Wade in there to play defense? Possibly, or are you going to put in Brett Gardner? They'll probably put in Brett Gardner for Tyler Wade for defense. And now let's say you don't score. And now it's the 11th inning, and that spot comes around again, and it's still 1-1, and you still face a tough pitcher. Now Giancarlo's on the bench. I don't want to see Brett Gardner in that situation, and we're going to see it. Remember this. We're not going to see it.
Yeah, it sucks. But listen, also, like, my argument here is, like, if you do want to carry somebody as like a defensive replacement, if that's what he's going to be, like you kind of said, bringing Greg Allen, or Jonathan Davis. If that's what you're looking for, a pure defensive replacement, give me Jonathan Davis every day of the week. Also, I've never heard of a defensive replacement that doesn't have an arm. Like, doesn't that kind of just negate the whole thing? Like, sure, you could run down balls, but that's such a liability, having a guy with one of the worst arms in the league out there in center field. It's so mind-blowing to me, but nothing ever changes. Derek, before we do wrap things up today, do you have any predictions for tonight's game? Do you think that the losing streak finally ends here?
I predict there will be a baseball game this evening.
Well, I don't. Kind of boring.
This Yankees team, they're so Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, they could score 15 runs and it wouldn't surprise me, or they could get shut out and make 6 errors and it wouldn't surprise me. At this point, I've stopped trying to predict them this year, and I'm just hoping that they can stay healthy and be healthy going into the playoffs. That's all I care about right now.
Well, you know what, Derek? I'm going to make more of a fun prediction here.
All right.
I think the Yankees win tonight. I think the losing streak finally ends. When you have Garrett Cole on the mound tonight, there's no reason why you're not winning tonight's game, bro. He's your stopper. He's your ace. He's the guy who's going to win us the wild card game this year. So, yeah, I think Garrett Cole dominates. We're going up against some dude from Boston. His name's Packy Natton. Bro, if Packy Natton... That's what I'm saying.
Is his middle name Sean?
Packy Sean Natton. So look, if we can't absolutely rock this kid tonight, I think this is like his 3rd career appearance or whatever. The Yankees have some serious problems, like very serious problems. I know the lineup doesn't look that good, but I'm going to be very, very concerned if we're losing 5 straight going back home. The only positive would be that we're going to be facing the Orioles.
All right, you want a prediction? I'm going to give you a prediction. I think Joey Gallo breaks out tonight.
Okay.
I think.
In what way? Like multiple home runs?
I think he's going deep at least once. I think he's going to go deep, and he's going to have a day off to sit with it and feel good, and then he's going to go berserker against the Orioles, like the way we saw Giancarlo go berserker against the Padres last year. I mean, against the Rays, not the Padres.
I like it, Derek. I like it.
That's my prediction.
But with that being said, that is going to be wrapping things up for this week's episode of the 643 DP. Patrick Hennessy, that's Derek Lewandowski. Listen, if you guys aren't subscribed to Derek, I'm sure you already are, but MYY Recaps on YouTube. He does recaps after the Yankee game. MYY Recaps. There you go. But you guys know the deal. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more. I'll be live directly after tonight's game for the post game, so stay tuned for that. But you guys know the deal. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. Let's go, Yankees. Peace.
6-4-3